Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Vosteed and RS Knife Works. That's Rob Saniscalchi or Saniscalchi. I'm so sorry. I am certain that I butchered it. But it's the Mayhem, a very interesting knife that's utilizing a button-operated liner lock. Now, when I checked just now, the knife was listed as out of stock. Some people get upset with me because when I review things, it's not right there waiting for them to buy it. Let me remind you of something. I am not the home shopping network. This is not a sales pitch, it's a review. Things come in and out of stock, and my review process does not revolve around anybody's individual ability to buy the knife right then and there, right? So you can wait and check and see if it comes back in stock, which I would imagine it will at some point, right? Or you can not do that. But I'm going to share with you my thoughts about the design today so that, you know, if that opportunity presents itself, you can make that choice for yourself down the road. Thank you so much to Vosteed for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. I will provide links for Vosteed knives in general right down in the description. There might be something else you'd be interested in. So those will be down there if you want to check them out. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. Overall length is coming in at 8¼ inches. So definitely a full-size knife. Blade length, 3.35 inches to the middle of the frame. And your cutting edge is about 2.85 thanks to a fairly generous forward choil. Let's do some size comparison, something larger here. You can check out Original Goat Custom Scales down in the description, as well as Flytanium. A lot of my size comparison knives have custom scales. So you can see here up against something like the 8010, it's not massive, right? Up against something like the Ontario Rad Model 1 and the Ontario Rad Model 2. It's close to the same size as the Rad 2. How about up against the Demco 8020.5? There we go. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? There we go. And then let's do a couple of well-known Hogues here. How about the Ritter Hogue, sporting the cool green scales, and the Hogue Deca, sporting the cool clear scales from Original Goat. How's the action? The action's actually really good. You push this, it's sort of like a long pill, and it works. It's a little bit skinny, but it definitely works. There's a lot of weight in that blade, and it really comes down, but it falls shut, and there is no, drag. It's not a plunge lock. It's a button operated liner lock. Now on the website, they kind of make this sound like they're a new thing. It's not. They're not the first ones to do it, but it is cool, and we definitely don't see it very often, right? You can also very easily, because of the way that the detent works, you can very easily reverse flick it with that thumb hole there, or you can forward flick it, and it's honestly very, very satisfying. This is, they advertise it as a very fidget-friendly knife, and it is very well tuned. It is fun to do that with, but on top of that, right? Just because there's fidget factor involved does not mean that it's a toy and it's not utilitarian. No, it's very, very convenient to open and close, whether you're wearing gloves or not, right? If you take this out and decide to actually use it, which I'm sure plenty of people will, it's nowhere near a price tag where people don't use this stuff. So yeah, very, very easy and convenient to manipulate. And here's the best part about this. There's no blade play. They got this thing solid with no lock stick either. Everything, including the detent and the closed position, everything is solid. This is nice. Sometimes with stuff like this, I just expect things to be a little wonky, right? No, not the case. So action, very good. Runs on bearings. I think a lot of people will be very satisfied with that. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's definitely thicker than the Spyderco Para 3. It is a little bit of a chunky boy. Not massive, but definitely on the thicker side. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3 for length and height? Closed, it's about the same length, maybe a little bit longer than the PM2. Definitely longer than the Para 3. Max height is up here at the bump. It's still not quite as high as the bump on the PM2 or Para 3. Where you're going to notice it is thickness and weight. What do we have for materials? We have M390. You can see here this will be a numbered run, right? I don't know if they released all of these in one batch, right? Sometimes when they do numbered run, a lot of people see that and they're like, that's evidence when they sell out, they're done forever. No, it isn't. Sometimes it's just the number in that batch. And then as soon as they do a new batch, like a batch 2, then they number the second batch, right? Now, I have no idea what their plans are, but I don't see anything stopping them from releasing more of these, right? In any case, the secondary market exists, so the purpose of reviewing something that's sold out should be pretty obvious because people continue to seek this stuff out, right? Either way, I like to take my time and make sure that I feel like I know what I'm talking about before I release a review and not push a review out super duper fast just to make it there while the knives are available, right? No, not the purpose of this channel. So if you didn't know, now you do. But anyways, something else that's interesting about the blade is not only is it M390, but this is what I honestly expected to find. I expected to go to the website and not see a single mention of Rockwell hardness. Now, as we all know now, geometry has way more to do with blade performance than the type of steel and the hardness. But blade geometry combined with a good composition that is heat treated well is the optimum result, right? Not just geometry by itself, not just Rockwell, right? But we want all of that, especially if we're going to pay this type of money for a knife. I expected them not to make any mention of Rockwell hardness at all. Guess what I found? Rockwell hardness of 60, and it says 60 plus 2, meaning it's anywhere from 60 to 62. Thank you. Thank you, Vosteed. Holy crap. Why can no other company get, getting it up there to 60, getting it in, we could do 59 to 61, but 60 to 62 is out of the question. Why? Why can no other company, Kunwu and Vosteed can do this? Okay, other companies, if you watch my content, other content creators, right, we should be pointing this out. I mean, like, obviously I'm going to talk about the geometry here. This is wonky. It's a crazy grind, right? But these companies can do it. I don't see the excuse. I understand that hardness is definitely, it's a preference and it's opinion-based. There are certainly lots of people that say, 59 is just fine. In my opinion, which is shared by many, 60 to 62 is where this production M390/20CV/204P should be. Vosteed can do it. Now, Kunwu doesn't use M390, but they do LMAX and they do VanX and they do a lot of other things. In fact, actually, no, they do M390. I'm wrong. And they do hit it a little bit higher. And as far as I know, the excuse that I always hear is, then it chips and then you get a bunch of warranty requests. As far as I know, Kunwu's not really having that issue. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but we got companies that are able to do this, and they're also not slapping some crazy magic super high price tag on it because it's so hard to do. That's cool. Thank you, Vosteed. The other cool thing is, even their coated blades, as far as I can tell, this is what it says on the website, 60 to 62, right? Now, of course, this would be very upsetting to find out, somebody who actually has the proper equipment to test this stuff, if this is just a lie. But that would be pretty risky to just lie, especially considering, Vosteed is not like a company that people are not aware of. Like, this is a company that people, are familiar with. They've definitely made a name for themselves. That would be a really risky move, right? Especially now in 2023 when the magnifying glasses are out all the time. You might be wondering, why don't you test the Rockwell hardness? Because I don't have the proper equipment for that, and that's not something you can just order on Amazon for $12.95, right? Even the baseline stuff is a little bit inaccurate. So the proper equipment to test Rockwell hardness is expensive, definitely, and it's also going to be a little bit time consuming. I don't have the time or the ability to do that. Fortunately, we have other people in the community who do. And so it's always nice when we get the test results back with a lot of this stuff and find out, hey, it's actually there in the range. So as far as, my on this channel, as far as how it goes here, I'm happy that not only did they list the Rockwell hardness, but apparently they're hitting it from 60 to 62, which is really great. I think that's where that should be. Okay, let's move on here. Weight. The internals are milled out slightly for weight reduction, which is good because that's a lot of titanium. This is TC4 titanium, by the way. What's TC4? It's Chinese grade 2. How does that differ from American grade 5 or 6AL4V? It doesn't. It's the exact same thing. They just call it grade 2 TC4 over there, and we call it grade 5 over here. For a long time, there was a lot of discussion about, the differences between them. And it turns out there isn't. It's the same thing. So the weight on this is 5.5 ounces, which is to be expected. It's full titanium. If they don't have a version of this that's in G10, I mean, honestly, Vosteed, the next run of these that you should do is a budget version, right? I mean, or do some in between. Do titanium liners in G10 with S35VN and charge us, $160 for it or something like that. I don't see a problem with that. Or do one that's 14T28N with G10 and steel liners and charge us $60 for it. I think that would be really, really cool. And I think a lot of people would enjoy that, right? So it would really surprise me if they were just like, nah, we're done. That's it. Because this is a pretty interesting knife, and they obviously did well on it. I mean, it sold out as far as it did when I'm recording this. But anyways, yeah, fairly thick knife, fairly heavy knife. Some people will notice it more than others. Just do with that information whatever you will. Let's go and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. The pivot is a T8. Unfortunately, the body screws are T6. Now, that's not a deal breaker. It's just mildly irritating. We have like teeny tiny heads that are T6 for the pocket clip, and that's to be expected. And we have larger heads that have a teeny tiny T6, intention there. That these should be T8. But okay, there's just two on each side. No big deal, right? As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness. I'm going to guess that that's about 135 to 140 thousandths. Let's see, am I right? Nope, I'm completely wrong. It's 155 thousandths, a lot thicker than I thought it was going to be. Okay, is it meat and potatoes time? I think it is. This is pretty wild looking. I mean, I say it's wild looking. It's certainly a aesthetic shape we've seen before. It's pretty comfortable, honestly. The pocket clip is milled and knocked down, and the only pointy part is maybe right at the tip, but it doesn't curve up into your hand, so not really that big of a deal. The most comfortable position to hold this knife in is choked up with your index finger here, and it's got 3 different zones to complement the index finger for the thumb. The jimping is like here, here, and here, which is kind of cool. I like that. I think right here it feels really good. So if you're going to choke up and do some detail work, if you're going to whittle, then sure. But honestly, using it, doing your draw cuts, things like that, because of this blade shape, it's going to excel at draw cuts. It'll still puncture. It'll still slice. I think there's a little bit subtle belly there. The weird thing is that we have a compound grind, and we have this very thick initial edge, very thick. And then we have a slightly thinner grind up here, the secondary grind. I think that is almost entirely for looks. And you know what? It does a pretty good job. I mean, who cares if it's slightly less functional than, not having the grind like that at all. It gives it a little bit of personality. I have to admit, I have never seen a compound grind like this where the initial 3/4 of an inch is super thick and then the rest of it is slightly thinner. So, does it slice? Well, yeah. I mean, you guys have all seen my Alpha Beast slice. This will absolutely cut and slice. Anybody who can't do this with this knife doesn't know how to hold a knife and doesn't know how to slice anything, right? We've all seen the content creators who just can't, they just can't figure it out. It's so thick! It's so thick behind the edge! Why? I have no idea. I don't believe them. I don't believe them at all. I'm like, you know how to cut that piece of paper. Stop being stupid, right? So yeah, I will, but obviously, that's not what we're cutting all day. If you're going to take this out and use it, you're going to be cutting rope, wood, cardboard, rubber. So the denser and more abrasive, the material, the more difficult it's going to be to push this wedge through it. And in some cases, that really thick initial grind is going to cause a problem, but not much, right? I mean, you'd have to be being pretty dramatic. It would be like those freaking commercials where they're like, are you an idiot who doesn't know how to make spaghetti? And you're like falling off the roof with a pot of spaghetti. Like, and then it's like, introducing the Spaghetti Master 9000. And it's like this device that keeps you from being an idiot with spaghetti. Like, you know, you'd have to be being pretty dramatic for that to be the case. But it will slow you down a little bit. And in some situations, I can find it being a little bit irritating, you know, for some people, because it is thick right there. And a lot of times when you make that initial cut, that's the initial area that gets pushed into the material. So be cognizant of it. It's ironic because I made a much bigger deal out of it than anybody probably would while cutting. But yeah, I would just be aware of it. What are the little lines for here? Drainage. I'm kidding. I think they're just to look cool, and that's fine. It says Vosteed. This is apparently number 3. We have the maker's logo there, and then it says M390, which is fine. This is a satin finish blade, which is okay. I think Vosteed does a nice tumbled finish, so it would have been nice to see that there. You can also get this in black, right? The blade is done well, and the general geometry of it, the shape of it, suggests that it's going to be very difficult to break, right? So I think you'll be good to go, unless you're doing something stupid with your knife. They all come with these pivot collars. I think maybe on the black ones, is it more of a bronze? On the blasted and satin finished ones, it's a copper pivot collar. That's fine, right? To me, it's like you could have, you know, I could take it or leave it. I don't really care. I think some people might like it a lot. The backspacer is actually raised a little bit and has chamfered edges, which gives it a little more personality than just a flat backspacer, so that's nice. These lines are just here for general busyness, just aesthetic busyness, and I think it does lend to the overall look of the knife in a little way, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, amazing personality lines, but it is something, and if they weren't there, I think this would be a little bit more boring, right? So remove the lines, remove the compound grind, you have a knife that we've seen a million times, right? Some people care about those little things, those trivial things, and some people don't. But as a design reviewer, I kind of appreciate that. It makes it a little bit easier to remember this knife. There's a lanyard hole. Yay. There's no lefty mounting position for the pocket clip. Boo. That there should be. The pocket clip, I think, is a decent length, but it carries almost shallow. I would have preferred that it carried a little deeper. It doesn't have to carry deep, but there's quite a bit of knife sticking up out of the pocket, which is not a deal breaker, but to me it's a little irritating. There's a little tiny bit of shouldering on the lockup, and the nice thing about this being a liner lock operated button lock is that you do not have to figure out where to put your hands while you're deploying it, because you can't put unnecessary pressure on the lock bar. It's covered completely by the titanium. That's an issue that is sometimes more or less irritating with exposed titanium frame locks. Not the case here, so that's kind of nice. The button is recessed enough that I think it would be very, very difficult to accidentally disengage it. I'm going to use my left hand here. It's really the only situation that's going to be present is if you are left-handed and you're squeezing it, because honestly, right-handed, well, truth be told, if you're not choked up, your index finger, the natural landing zone, is right on top of that button. So if I squeeze really hard, it will disengage. Now, if you're choked up, will it? If you bear down on this middle finger, I think that might be a little bit of an issue here. When you're squeezing on it. Now, left-handed, this is usually where the disengagement problem is. Left-handed, I can't squeeze hard enough in this position or in the choked up position to get it to disengage. So you will have to actively make sure that you keep your fingers off of that button, whether you are choked up, right, or you're not. So when you're hammer gripping this thing really hard, your index finger will land on it. When you're choked up and you're hammer gripping it really hard, this middle finger will land on top of it. So just, think about where you're putting the pressure, because there is a chance of accidental disengagement, and, once you lose fingers or have to spend more at the hospital than you did on the knife. I mean, that's embarrassing, right? So, and also it sucks. As it sits, though, oh yeah, lockup, completely and totally solid. No blade play up, down, left to right, no lock stick, no pivot lash. Very, very smooth and consistent in here, and a nice click into the closed position with perfect centering and no detent lash. $250 for this guy, which I don't think is bad at all, especially considering not only the materials, but more importantly, the execution of those materials. The fit and finish is all great. And the cherry on top is they actually got the M390 to the appropriate range. I mean, it's not the best geometry for continuous cutting, but it'll be fine. It'll be okay, right? I think this is pretty cool. It's not going to be for everybody. It's too big and too heavy for a lot of people, right? It's just flat out not for left-handed people. But generally, I think it's pretty interesting, right? So I can't. It's not one of those knives I can recommend to everybody, but they did a good job with it. Vosteed is a company that I am fairly impressed by. They've done a lot of really, really good stuff, and they listen to feedback clearly, right? Remember the raccoon thing? They're like, oh, there's a problem with the raccoon? Here, fixed. Here it is. It's done. We redid it. Just immediately. So, yeah, I'm paying attention to Vosteed. I think you should, too. This may or may not come back in stock. I think they should continue to do this, and if not exactly this, then other knives like it. When you do something premium with M390, get it to that range, right? But more button-operated liner locks, I think that's really cool. I think that's fun. So, anyways, I think that's pretty much it. This has already gone on longer than it needs to. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.